Welcome, everyone. My name is Lizelle Foss. I am a member of the HEAL Data Stewardship Group. Thank you for joining today's Fresh Fair webinar titled Strengthening Fair Data in Practice, Updates from the HEAL Data Ecosystem. Next slide, please. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be shared with all registrants. If at any point you have a question, please feel free to type it into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we'll bring it up during the question and answer session after the presentation. Next slide. Today, we'll look at how progress across the HEAL data ecosystem is making it easier to discover, understand, and reuse data. As the ecosystem grows, shared standards and better aligned metadata are reducing the friction that used to make cross-study work harder than it needed to be. We'll also talk about how this growth is enabling real cross-study insight and secondary analysis. When studies use common approaches and structured metadata, it becomes much more feasible to compare and combine data in meaningful ways. And finally, we'll highlight recent and upcoming enhancements to the HEAL data ecosystem that support data reuse as an ongoing process. This isn't a one-time milestone, it's something the ecosystem continues to strengthen over time. Next slide. Later in the presentation, we will be hearing from Kira Bradford, PhD, and Aubrey Waymiller, MS. Dr. Kira Bradford is a scientific computing principal investigator at RTI International, working at the intersection between cloud-based cyber infrastructure development and scientific research. Bradford is a co-lead of the Data Management and Consultancy Group for the NIH HEAL Data Stewardship Group. Her team science background, combined with her professional and research experiences, provide a foundation for her work as a leader in multidisciplinary and multi-institutional projects that accelerate research by enabling access to computational cloud-based resources. Aubrey Waymiller is a research scientist at RENCI. She works on NIH-funded research, including the HEAL Data Stewards, providing technical project management, and communications expertise to help build, educate on, and maintain data platforms. She works to harmonize datasets, ensure fair practices, and support users delivering usable tools and infrastructure to support public health and biomedical informatics. Next slide, please. Before I hand it off to our presenters, I'd like to briefly provide context on how recent progress within the HEAL data ecosystem is translating into meaningful research impact. Next slide. At a high level, this progress is really about lowering friction for researchers, making it easier to find relevant data, understand what's available, and decide whether it can support new research questions. Sharing HEAL's progress is also about moving beyond single study silos. As more studies adopt shared standards and provide richer metadata, we're better positioned to support cross-study insight and secondary analysis that wouldn't be possible in isolation. And finally, it's important to emphasize that this progress is not an endpoint. These improvements lay the groundwork for better discovery, more efficient reuse, and continued growth across the ecosystem. In the next few slides, I'll walk through each of these areas in more detail. When we talk about lowering friction for researchers, next slide, please. We mean reducing the effort it takes to move from an idea to an actionable data. Historically, much of that effort has gone into simply figuring out what studies exist, what data they collected, and whether those data could realistically be reused. So progress across the HEAL data ecosystem helps reduce that burden in a few key ways. Improved connections across studies and datasets make it easier to discover relevant research. Richer study and variable level metadata help researchers quickly understand what data exists within a study. And clearer metadata and shared standards make it easier to assess whether those data are suitable for reuse, especially for secondary or cross-study analysis. So together, these improvements shift time and effort away from discovery and evaluation and towards analysis and insight. Next slide. Another important shift we're seeing is a move from single study silos towards cross-study insight. When studies are registered on the HEAL Data platform and supported by data dictionary submissions, they begin to speak a shared language. So these shared standards make it possible to look across studies rather than at each one in isolation. They support meaningful comparisons by ensuring variables are more consistently defined and documented. They also open the door to secondary analysis and cross-study analysis, where existing data can be combined or re-examined to answer new research questions. In this way, study registration and metadata submission help expand the scientific value and reuse potential of each individual study. Next slide. And when we talk about the progress across the HEAL data ecosystem, it can easily be easy to think that compliance at it can be easy to think about compliance as meeting requirements and checking boxes. But the progress we're discussing goes further than that. These improvements support discovery, collaboration, and reuse by making data easier to find, understand, and connect across studies. Next slide. So to connect everything I've discussed so far, all of the ecosystem progress we are sharing today ultimately supports the goal of making HEAL data fair, which stands for findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. The infrastructure and tools that help researchers discover and work with datasets, like the tools within the HEAL data ecosystem, are powered by the information investigators and study teams provide through data sharing requirements. Researchers also play an important role in strengthening the ecosystem by using these discovery tools and exploring available datasets. Each time data is discovered, reused, or combined across studies, it expands opportunities for new insights and secondary analysis. So our hope is that by sharing the progress the HEAL data ecosystem has made so far, will inspire you to think about how HEAL data might support your own research questions. With that context, I'll now hand the presentation over to Kira Bradford, who will walk us through the latest progress across the ecosystem.
Thank you so much. And honestly, Lizelle, before I move on with the rest of the presentation, I just want to share with folks in this webinar. Reuse has been a theme that I think a lot of people have not been paying enough attention to. And it's more than also like our big effort is to help studies share data across different scientific domains, but there's also a small benefit to within your labs. And just to share briefly, when I was an undergrad and discovering research for the first time and feeling all the wonderful highs and lows that comes with it, and then sharing with my PI at the time some new information I discovered, my latest experimental results. And he's like, finally, I can finally publish this paper. This is exactly what I was looking for to supplement my findings. And I was like, great. When should we start working on the paper? And I will never forget the memory of him in his office, wheeling his chair all the way back to this dusty old cabinet and grabbing a paper that had already been written up, blowing the dust off, and showing it to me. I feel that we here at the HEAL Initiative can do so much better than that, can do so much more to make data reusable and fair altogether. Next slide. All right. So as Lizelle mentioned, I will be sharing an overview of the HEAL data ecosystem growth and some metrics associated with that. Next slide. So in order to understand how we grew over time, let's talk through a timeline of events. So in April 2018, we had the HEAL Initiative launch. It is a multi-institutional funded project. Many grants, many studies were funded in 2018 and progressively from then on. There were initial data sharing requirements that started being included in the FOAs in 2021, but it wasn't really until 2023 that NIH published their new data management and sharing policy. In between that time, we had the official launch of the HEAL data platform. The goal of the platform was to make the HEAL studies more fair, findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable, and to begin cataloging where studies are publishing their data and providing people with capabilities with searching and finding those data. In 2023, we had the first HEAL NOAAs explicitly require platform registration. This is an important step to aid the HEAL FAIR efforts, as previously studies may decide to share their data, and definitely by 2023, they were required to share their data. But it wasn't until later on in 2023 that we started explicitly requiring the platform registration, which enabled the platform to be what we were hoping for to begin with, that sort of overall platform that helps future researchers and existing researchers find relevant and useful HEAL data sets. Later on in 2023, we also had the HEAL semantic search release. This is meant to be a complementary search mechanism on top of what the platform already provides in case you're more interested in learning about specific concepts that are related to your research, in case you didn't know explicit data that already existed. And then in 2024, we had an interesting shift. So while the HEAL platform has been extremely successful with interacting with researchers and getting some workspaces developed to support their analysis, we were still seeing very low numbers of studies putting their data assets into repositories and subsequently linking them to the HEAL platform. And so the HEAL data stewards were charged with an initiative that we called the Get the Data Initiative, where we were set to accelerate the number of data sets that ended up into a HEAL vetted repository and became subsequently linked in the HEAL data platform so that it can be the overall catalog of all data sets that are being generated within the HEAL initiative. And then in 2025, the first HEAL NOAAs explicitly required variable level metadata submission. And you may be wondering why is that so important? So study level metadata is just key information about the study itself, who the PI are that's running it, who the contact PI is, the name of the study, etc. Variable level metadata gets more into what are you studying. So not necessarily asking you like, what's the patient's age, what's the patient's PII type information, more like, are you studying myocardial infarction? Are you studying opioid use disorder? What type of metadata are you studying associated with that? Are you using surveys? Are you using CDEs? That type of information is what we're hoping to get out of the variable level metadata submission. And so now, well, I say now, this is actually from December 2025, we have over 100 data sets that are linked to the platform. But this is just a start. You may think 100 plus may be an impressive number or low, depending on how much it takes to impress you. But there are over 900 studies that are funded within the HEAL initiative. We can definitely grow. Next slide. So as I mentioned, I'm going over the overview of the HEAL data ecosystem growth and metrics. So these metrics that I will be presenting to you in later slides are meant to reflect both the extent of data sharing that is currently happening and how this data sharing effort is promoting the ease of data discovery and reuse. Growth and adoption trends reflect increasing readiness for secondary and cross-study analysis, especially as more studies are depositing their data into HEAL vetted repositories and beginning to include either CDEs or other standardized metadata that's relevant to their data type. Next slide, please. All right. So I'm going to be showing you a couple of graphs in the next couple of slides. So the goal of the HEAL data stewards was to track the number of studies participating in the HEAL data ecosystem over time. So we have a couple of different time points that we'll be sharing with you, and we'll be studying a couple of different things. But there are a few key caveats that I want you all to be aware of as I share these graphs with you. The number of HEAL studies does not equal the number of HEAL awards, and not all studies are producing data. For instance, you may have a coordinating data center, they're not necessarily producing data. And you may have a HEAL award that eventually got a supplemental award. We don't want to double count those. So you'll see in the very next slide what that looks like and some gear shifts we had to make to accommodate those. We also used the platform's HEAL data platform identifiers as a proxy for the number of unique studies producing data. This is the most accurate that we intend to show you at this point in time so you can get a consistent feel for how many studies we are seeing over time. The HEAL platform pulls its data from NIH Reporter, which is fairly accurate in terms of how many studies are funded by HEAL. All right, so without much further ado, let's take a look at those graphics. Next slide. Perfect. All right, so this is growth over time. There are a couple of things that are happening here. So I'll just walk you through the x-axis and then I'll walk you through each of the various time points. So in the x-axis here are the total number of studies that we saw funded within the HEAL initiative, and we're using the HEAL data platform's count of these studies. Now, remember what I told you. We didn't realize that some studies were being double counted because maybe they got a supplemental award or several supplemental awards. And we also didn't realize that not all studies will be producing data. So the platform has been diligently going through and archiving those data studies, those HEAL studies, so they wouldn't be accidentally counted as HEAL data producing. And so that's why you see a great shift from 1,200 to 1,000 roughly. All right, so looking at the next set of bars, registered. So what we mean by registered is that right now the HEAL data platform is pulling all of its study information from NIH Reporter, but we still require you to register your study on the HEAL data platform. This ensures a number of things, such as all the information being registered on the platform is accurate. And also, it provides you the opportunity to update the HEAL platform on any of the next steps that you'll be taking in order to be compliant with the HEAL data sharing policy. So, growth over time, you can see we initially had about a third of the HEAL studies, well, actually a quarter if you're going based off of the 1,200 number. And we are now nearly at half of studies are registered on the HEAL data platform, indicating significant compliance with, at the very least, registering studies on the platform. Now for some more interesting statistics. So the third category is study level metadata submitted. So as I referenced earlier, the difference between study level metadata and variable level metadata. Study level metadata is just information about the study itself, what's the name of the study, who the contact PI is, etc. So study level metadata is submitted also to the platform, and that has slowly been growing over time. The next section is repository selected. So one of the big efforts the HEAL stewards did in the very early phases of our award was vet over 27 different repositories that would meet the needs of each of the different data types being generated within the HEAL initiative. Just think about that for a second. That is the amount of diversity we're seeing within the HEAL data ecosystem. And rather than, excuse me, forcing you all to use the same repository, we decided to give you all the choice of finding a repository that best fits your data type and your data needs. So one of the things that we were promoting as part of our Get the Data initiative is increasing the number of consults we have with investigators and assisting them with choosing a repository for their data sets. And as you can see, that has also grown significantly over time. All right, the next key statistic is data linked. So this is the primary stat that we want to see grow significantly from here on out. So data linked means a HEAL study has registered on the platform, they have submitted study level metadata, they have chosen a repository, and then they have gone the final additional steps. They deposited their data into that chosen repository and then gave the HEAL data platform team a link to that digital object identifier associated with the data set that's now in the repository. Now the platform can go through and create that linkage on their catalog, allowing investigators to now search and find exactly when they're seeing that study where those data assets got deposited into. And then the last two statistics are about variable level metadata. So I'm going to just highlight here, variable level metadata is absolutely essential in the success of data reuse. It gives investigators who are coming in a better understanding of what y'all were studying to begin with, and it also contextualized the study. So variable level metadata on the platform and variable level metadata on the HEAL semantic search remain fairly low compared to the number of studies that have registered overall. And so this is going to be one of the big efforts that we're pushing this year to promote variable level metadata submission. And we'll be talking more about that in subsequent data reuse webinars. Next slide, please. All right, so I mentioned 27 different repositories. So this is a pie chart representing all the chosen repositories by each of the various studies. And so you'll see one of the most popular repository chosen is NADAP. One of the reasons for that is that NADAP was actually stipulated by one or two of the institute or centers as being the repository of choice for those investigators that were recipient of that award. Other popular repositories included Vivly and Figshare. Vivly is a great repository. It's a generalist repository, meaning that it accepts multiple types of data, but it also has controlled access. So if you're worried about sharing data that may contain PII, Vivly is a great choice. Figshare is also a great choice because it is a generalist repository, but it does not have controlled access. So if you're not worried about sharing any type of identifiable information, Figshare is a great choice. Many of these other repositories have also been used, and you can see that there's a wide diversity, and not all of repositories chosen are being represented in this graph. Next slide, please. So let's talk through the variable level metadata status of studies with data accessible through the platform. Excuse me. All right. So we have a couple of different time points, and we have a stacked bar chart for you to look at. So starting from the top, these are variable level metadata on the platform. This is where you can see the variable level metadata associated with the data on the platform. It's hit the final stage. That's where we would like to be at. Variable level metadata to be processed is still in it's still in the development phase, or still in the going to be on the platform phase, but it has not been completed for a variety of reasons. And then for the last two, these are reliant on communications with you all as HEAL investigators. So we understand that not all studies are data generating. We also know that not all studies are able to share their data for a variety of reasons, including intellectual property reasons, or you're working with a specific population that will not allow you to share their data, or you're working with industry partners, et cetera. But we need to hear from you all so we know what to expect in terms of what type of information we can ultimately see being shared from you all. So as you can see from the 4 time points being shown, we have steadily seen a growth in the number of variable level metadata that's being shared, but we're still not quite at half of all the studies being funded within HEAL. And so we would like to see that number grow. Next up. Next slide, please. All right. So overall, any observations based on the HEAL data stewards ecosystem engagement. So one of the things that we're really excited to see over time is that we are seeing research teams engaging with the HEAL data ecosystem earlier and earlier in their study's life cycle. That is incredible because it means that you guys are setting yourselves up for success. You're not having to scramble towards the end of your period of performance to make sure that your data are not only ready to be deposited into a repository, but are compliant with the other aspects of the data sharing policy. We also see that there is an awareness of data sharing expectations. So many investigators are coming in with full knowledge of the 2023 policy that went into effect. And we have been providing informational packets on how to be compliant with that policy, as well as how the HEAL data sharing policy relates to that. Excuse me. And then finally, for webinars, office hours, and tutorial, we are seeing that participants are actively engaging and asking us questions. The harder the questions, the more we love it. We're expecting this not to be easy, but we're here because we want to help you guys and set you all up for success. There are so many studies that are being funded within the HEAL initiative. The HEAL initiative itself is solving very important problems. Let's set you all up for success so we can see that data being reused in the future. Next slide. All right, some HEAL data ecosystem data packaging observations. So we are seeing that early funded HEAL research networks are completing studies, and they're now beginning to share their data. We're also seeing an increasing number of data types being prepared with shareable data and metadata. And we're also seeing that data links are being submitted. Unfortunately, not all of those links include shareable data. Next slide, please. Some other things to note, we are seeing an increased adoption of best practices for data standards. So what we mean by that are the inclusion of HEAL common data elements, so those CDEs that I was referencing to, as well as seeing an increase in the submission of data dictionaries with variable level metadata. With respect to the data dictionaries, those are something that is really critical for the HEAL semantic search effort and for the HEAL data platform. It allows us to identify studies that are using HEAL standardized data practices. And it allows us to map CDE usage across studies so we can support data discovery and reuse. So why this matters, if you haven't heard me hound this enough, we're hoping to enhance visibility of reusable data. So imagine for those of you who like to see your papers being cited, this is another citable element. Once you publish your data asset and deposit your data asset in a repository and have that information published on the HEAL platform, assuming you followed all the best practices for data management, your data asset may be something that becomes increasingly citable, and other researchers will use it and then cite your DOI. Other things to note is that CDE aligned studies are easier to compare and combine for obvious reasons for reuse. Next slide, please. All right. So one of the things that I talked about is that the HEAL data stewards are here to support you all and setting you up for success for being compliant with the HEAL data sharing policy. So one of the things that we set up is this self-service HEAL checklist. So if you go onto our website, it's healdatafair.org. We have this checklist for you to go through and figure out which step you are at in terms of being compliant with the HEAL data sharing policy. So what you can do is you'll have an option to enter in your study information, and it will pop up with exactly what step you're at and how to complete that step and move forward. So each of these steps are broken down with additional resources, but as always, HEAL data stewards are here to support you. So if you have any questions, we are always available for consults. Next slide. And then finally, how does the HEAL data ecosystem support researchers? So I'm going to be now handing it off to Aubrey to talk about discovery and reuse. I will mention that both the HEAL data platform and HEAL semantic search help with this, but for this webinar, we will be honing in on HEAL semantic search. Aubrey, please take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Kira. If we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So for the next 6 to 8 minutes or so, I'll be giving a brief demo of HEAL semantic search and showing you how this tool utilizes progress towards preparing HEAL data for reuse and then translating that progress into real research value. Next slide. So as we heard from Kira, the HEAL data ecosystem is really large and contains a wide range of research topics and data types. And HEAL semantic search is a tool that allows you to search across this diverse research landscape to discover relationships between HEAL studies, standardized variables, and biomedical concepts. Next slide. And by helping users find these connections, HSS allows you to discover related HEAL studies, variables, CDEs, and concepts. It allows you to examine how a specific concept or variable is defined and measured in other studies. And most importantly, it allows you to identify data sets that can be used for secondary analysis or reuse. Next slide. So how does HEAL semantic search make these connections? We're not going to go into too much detail here, but generally, HSS ingests information about HEAL studies and then utilizes some AI techniques to make a model of the connections. And then the user interface allows users to search across the model to discover those connections and relationships. Next slide. So tying it back into what Kira was just talking about, all of that study information, like the study level metadata, the variable level metadata, CDEs, all of that information that we support and encourage HEAL studies in submitting, that directly impacts the findability and usability of those studies and ultimately impacts the power of HEAL semantic search. So as more studies provide these types of information, the larger the data model becomes, and the more powerful HEAL semantic search becomes in supporting discovery and reuse of HEAL data. Next slide. So now I'm going to switch over to a brief demo on how HEAL semantic search supports discovery and data reuse using a brief example. And if I could share screen, that would be wonderful. Wonderful, thank you. Seeing my screen okay? All right, not hearing anything else. So to start, you can visit HEAL Semantic Search by navigating to our website, healdatafair.org, and then hitting the semantic search button in the top menu. So for this demo, let's say that I am a researcher focused on substance abuse, and I'm interested in finding other HEAL studies that are focused on that. And I specifically want to see how those studies measure that concept, and if I can use these studies and combine them for cross-study or secondary analysis. So I'm going to start by entering my search term. And HEAL Semantic Search will sort the results into these 4 different tabs. Right now, I just want to look at studies that are related to substance abuse. And you can see that there is quite a large list here, and I want to filter down that list. I could filter by HEAL research programs. I'm not going to do that right now. I can filter by studies that have provided their variable level metadata. And I do want to do that because I want to use that information to help evaluate if I want to use a study or not. I can also filter by studies that actually have data available. And I do want that because I do want to need data for secondary analysis. And then I can also filter by studies that have CDEs or not. And I also want this because if they have CDEs, then I know some of their variables are standardized and easier to reuse. So looking at this first study out of my narrowed list, I can read about the study in this details tab and see other study information. And just by quickly skimming through this, I'm going to decide that I'm interested in this study. So I'm going to bookmark it. By bookmarking an item, it is saved in the bookmarks box, and you can download extensive information about it later on. Next, I'm going to scan through the variables used in this study, and I can see that there are quite a few. So there are a little over 1,500 variables. I can filter to show only those that are related to my search term, and I can see that these are definitely related to what I'm interested in. And then I could narrow it down even further if I wanted. I can also look at, oh, and I want to point out that this is specifically that variable level metadata that Kira was just talking about. And so this is really important when we're thinking about how we evaluate a study for reuse, right? It provides much more context for the study and lets me make that decision more easily. Then I can also go to the CDEs tab and see what CDEs this study is using. I see that they're using a demographic CDE, and I'm going to save this. Then I'm going to take a look at the next few studies. I'm going to briefly scan, decide that I'm interested in it, and I want to see what variables they're using as well. I can see that information and filter if I want. And then I see that they're also using the demographic CDE. And that's great because that means that those demographic variables are going to be standardized and easy to cross-compare or combine. I'm going to do the same for this study, briefly scan through. It's also using the demographic CDE, which is great. And I'm going to save this study as well. And then I'm just going to save this other study down here. Now switching over to the CDEs tab. This tab shows all CDEs that are related to substance abuse. I can filter this down by CDE type. I can also filter by CDEs that are actually used by studies. So I'm going to do that. So I, again, want things that are actually used for my secondary analysis. And I can read information about the CDEs here, so I can understand how many measures there are, and I can read description of every measure as well as the scale for that measure. I can also see what studies are specifically using the CDE. So this again makes it easy for reuse and secondary analysis. And I could save those studies if I wanted. And I see that the study, one of the studies I was already interested in, actually uses this CDE. And if I wanted more information, I can go to the Downloads tab and download the direct questionnaire. So let's say I am done now with my search. Maybe I'm interested in the CD as well. I can download a CSV file for each category of item that I've saved. So for the example, the CSV for the studies will output all of the study information, specifically the list of CDEs. And here I can easily see that all of the studies that I have saved all use the adult demographic CDE, so I know those variables will already be easy to use for reuse. If you are a little bit more computationally savvy, we do offer a JSON download, and so that contains even more extensive information about your saved items. If you need help at all with navigating HEAL semantic search, you can go to our help page. So it's /resources/semantic search/help, and there's some other breadcrumb trails throughout the site to help you get here, where you can find more information, including our user guide, our FAQs, and a link to our help desk where you can submit a help ticket or submit feedback to us. And so I hope this short demo has really shown you how the data sharing practices that Kira was talking about, like sharing your study level metadata, your variable level metadata, your CDEs, and linking data, all help further HEAL data reuse. If we could go back to the slides. Wonderful, thank you. And we really want to connect with you. We are looking for volunteers to meet with us for 45 minutes. Sorry, it's not 30, 45. To briefly use HEAL semantic search and share how it can fit into your research workflows and how this tool can help you effectively find and reuse HEAL data. And if you volunteer, you will receive a very small HEAL swag bag with the coveted HEAL measuring tape. And so if you are interested in volunteering, please email healstewards@RENC, and we will reach out to schedule something with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kira and Aubrey, for joining us today. We'll now move into the Q&A portion, and we'll be joined by one of our HEAL semantic search experts, Hina Shah, for the Q&A portion. So if I could invite all of our Q&A team to unmute and turn their cameras on, we will get started. And for the audience, don't be shy. You can use the Q&A box for any questions you have. Okay, first question. If a researcher wants to explore reuse opportunities but doesn't know where to start, what would be the best first step within the HEAL data ecosystem? Any advice?
I'll take a crack and then I'm going to call on Aubrey and Hina to back me up. All right. So if you are interested in exploring data reuse opportunities, I think the first step is to explore a little bit more about what the HEAL initiative is about. So definitely start with the NIH website, take a look at the HEAL Data Stewards website, but also don't be afraid to check out the HEAL Data Platform website as well, as they have a lot of information that introduces you to the variety of studies that exist within the HEAL data ecosystem. So you can begin your search there, or if you have a pretty confident idea of what type of concepts you would like to explore further, as Aubrey showed you during her demo, you can go straight into HEAL semantic search and start honing in on data sets that might have variables of interest.
Yeah, I don't think that I have anything to add, Kira. I think that's exactly what I would recommend.
Awesome, thank you. Next question, somewhat related. If someone is new to the HEAL ecosystem and wants to explore what types of data are available, what would you recommend they look at first?
I think I'll take a first attempt. So, and then Kira, you can jump in, and Hina as well. I think if you were looking for specific types of data, I would almost recommend looking for the HEAL research programs, so you can specify, what types of research and data they're collecting, and then you could go onto HEAL semantic search and filter for studies that are part of those HEAL research programs, and then you can look into both the variables, so the variable level information to see what is being measured, and then the CDEs as well.
The only thing I'll add is that the HEAL initiative represents an extreme diversity of data types being generated. So, as I mentioned earlier, we ended up vetting over 27 different repositories to help support the various data-specific needs that are being generated within the HEAL ecosystem. And additionally, there are also many different animal model types that are being studied. So everything from sheep and mollusk all the way up to humans. So there is definitely a breadth of data type, and the HEAL ecosystem has a lot to offer.
I'll just add one tidbit. So the Heal Data Platform also has a way of filtering through those several data types that you can that different studies collect. It's populated by the researchers themselves, so you can find different studies, for example, imaging, or depending on the subjects that the data is being collected on. So definitely something to check out too.
I'll add on to that by also kind of advertising for our next webinar, because we both teams, the HEAL Semantic Search team and the platforms team, will be there for the Q&A portion. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. They will be continuing to showcase the different capabilities of both tools in terms of finding and exploring available data. So stay tuned and make sure you sign up for our next webinar, next few webinars coming up. All right, let's move on to our third question. Where can I find examples of variable level metadata for different types of data? I believe Aubrey touched on this with the demo, but we can show the audience again or walk through it.
Yeah, so if you navigate to HEAL Semantic Search and you are interested in the variable level metadata, we also have a variables tab, which I did not show, so that you can see all of the variables related to your search term. And I think that we have some extensive variable resources on our metadata page. If you go to healdatafair.org/resources/metadata, there's a section specifically on variable level metadata. I don't know if that is specific to data types, but I know that's a good starting place.
Yeah, I would agree. And as Sarah just shared, we also have data packaging guidance resources available. And I believe on the website, we also have data packaging examples too. So some studies do not submit, some studies also have data dictionaries that are embedded along with the data. So the data packaging examples can give you idea for those data types as well.
Awesome, thank you. Next question regarding the HEAL semantic search. So for Hina or Aubrey, Once someone finds a study of interest, what are the key pieces of metadata they should review to determine that data might support their research question? Another one about data reuse.
Okay. I would suggest, of course, the abstract will give you a lot of the information, but among the metadata, I think take a look at the CDEs that have been reported to have been used by the study. You can also look at the variables and search through the variables and see if there are any that are actually related to your research concepts, some of the research concepts that you're looking at. Those are some of the things that I think would be helpful. You can also look at, you can also find more studies that are potentially doing something similar as well. Ari, do you think there's anything else that we can add?
I think you covered it.
Awesome, thank you. Next question. This is anyone can jump in. What do you suggest would be the first steps when starting the process of data sharing?
I'm gonna start. There are so many great first steps. My recommendation is to start with your data management and sharing plan. All studies are required to include those, I think, at this point in time. And within your data management and sharing plans, you'll see that there are many different elements that ask you to expand on what you intend to do with your data, what metadata you intend to collect, where you intend to deposit your data. So reviewing your data management and sharing plan, and then taking a look at the checklist that we provide on the HEAL Data Fair website, you can kind of see what steps should be taken next.
Perfect, thank you. Yes, definitely use the HEAL Stewards PI checklist that was shown earlier. That will also be a good guide to kind of get you on the right track if you're lost. I know we know there's a lot of different steps. And the stewards too are also here. And we will send our information via email after the webinar with our contact form info if that's something your study team would like to do to consult with our stewards team. Okay, next question. Will variable level metadata eventually need to be made unique between studies, or is it enough to be unique within a study?
Um, I'll try to interpret this question a little bit. So we don't expect the VLMDs like to make it standardized among different studies. One way to do it is to have the mapping from your variables to the CDE measures. The CDE measures are really the standardized ways or standardized measures in itself that your variables will map to. And ultimately, the CDE measures are the way that we hope folks can combine different data sets together. So even though your VLMD is unique to your study, if within the VLMD you also add information about which CDE this variable corresponds to, that would be great. Going one step further, every CDE questionnaire has a list of CDE variable names that are has a list of CDE variable names that you can actually use within your study. And if you do that, then it becomes automatically standardized with all the other studies that could have used that particular CDE measure.
Awesome. Thank you, Hina. Next question, how does HEAL semantic search complement the HEAL data platform when evaluating for reusable data sets?
Yeah, I can take a first attempt at this. I think that the one thing I actually didn't show in the demo for the sake of time is the concept search in HEAL semantic search. So in addition to studies and variables and CDEs, you can also search for related concepts to your search term. So for example, if you search for muscle pain, it would return a list of concepts related to muscle pain, like maybe fibromyalgia or other related diseases or phenotypes. And then it would show you a list of studies that are associated with that as well. So one option is that you can kind of expand your search and find maybe related studies or also variables and CDEs to those concepts. So that's one way. And then I showed the download. So once you have information about the studies that you're interested in and you download that information on HEAL Semantic Search, it'll give you the links and the HEAL platform IDs. So then you can go to the platform, find even more study information, and then also use the platform workspaces for analysis. And I know they have some example workspaces to get you started with analysis as well.
Thank you, Aubrey. And again, another plug, in May, we will be having a tutorial that the platform team and the HEAL Semantic Search team will kind of showcase. We'll walk through the ways that we can explore data sets. So stay tuned for that. And we also encourage you to go to the sites themselves and play around with it and explore data there on your own. Okay, let's see. Next question. What are some common challenges researchers face when trying to reuse existing data sets? And how is the HEAL data ecosystem working to reduce those barriers?
Yeah, I'll talk about this a little bit. It's very near and dear to my heart. So there are a ton of challenges. Just speaking from experience, just within a lab, sharing data with each other, you end up finding out, oh, the way something may have been measured is different from the way you measured it, and it wasn't documented anywhere. So that's one of the reasons why the HEAL data ecosystem encourages you to use a data sharing package and provide additional README information about the context behind the experiments, and how you perform them and what parameters were specific to your experiments. But one of the things that I have found is that it is really hard to tell when a given study has high quality data. So data that is well documented with great information, contextual information about any caveats that need to be taken into account, as well as what type of metadata they're including. You don't want to just reuse any data. And so the HEAL data ecosystem is working to address that in a variety of different ways. You'll see in the checklist that we ask you to choose a repository. Many repositories that are data type specific have their own standards that they require your data set to abide by. So that helps. We ask that you include variable level metadata. So by including variable level metadata, you also include some of the different additional information about when you put in a variable, what does that variable actually mean? So include information like a variable description. And then for certain studies, CDEs are extremely relevant and can be used, and that definitely helps promote reusability. But this is a everyday challenge. This isn't something that there is a one size fits all solution. There are many different solutions that need to be taken. And this is one of the reasons why the HEAL data stewards and the HEAL data platform teams are here to support you. And also, this is why these webinars occur. They're not called fresh fare for no reason.
Thanks, Kira. And let's see, where am I at? Oh, okay. If we're ready, I'll move on to the next question, which is related to data reuse again. Do we have any examples of how data was reused?
Um, yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead, Ollie. No, go ahead.
I don't have any, but other panelists feel free to speak up off the top of my mind. But I think want to highlight that we will be talking more about that in April and May. So please come tuned to that. And then I also want to highlight our call for user testers. So we really want to hear from you all about how you envision using a tool, specifically Heal Semantic Search for data reuse, how we can further promote data reuse in the ecosystem. And, oh, so sorry about that. And, oh man, that notification just made me lose my train of thought. Sorry, Hina. I'll come back if I get it back.
Yeah, it's okay. I think to Aubrey's point, yeah, we are in the process of also creating a small bank of examples for data reuse. But so far, if you have a data reuse case, please reach out to us. We would love to know how you have reused the HEAL data sets, and we can highlight it on our website and promote. If you are using it, then others will definitely reuse the data sets too. So, yeah.
I just want to point out, if you recall the timeline, the HEAL initiative was funded in 2018, and so many of those studies were 3 and 5 year awards. And the HEAL data sharing policy didn't come into effect until much later on. So we are only just now seeing high quality data sets that are making their way into repositories with variable level metadata, study level metadata following all the compliance steps. So while there are definitely excellent examples of data reuse within other programs that we'll be highlighting, the time is right for the HEAL initiative right now. There are many great data sets that we've seen come through and are available to be searched through for reuse. And we'll be working to identify which of those data sets have the potential to be not only high quality, but high impact as well.
Awesome, thank you. And I just want to briefly mention that at the Heal Data Platform website, when you scroll down to the bottom, they have a quick link section called Data Reuse Resources, and there's a page that showcases newly available links to their page. So definitely check that out if you're interested in looking at what's available so far in terms of at least having a repository link to a specific study. Let's see, we have 3 minutes left. Last question. Hina, how does HSS or Heal Semantic Search rank or score search results? Or in other words, how does it come up with the things that it comes up with?
Yeah, sure. So Heal Semantic Search, as we mentioned, has a knowledge graph at the back end, and the way the results are returned, it's a combination of different things. It's a combination of different criterias that we include during the while making the search to the knowledge graph. So it would be hard for me to give all the details over here, but I think we have a section for this in our user guide as well. So you can definitely check out the user guide and get more details on that.
Yeah, I think it's very briefly, it's if the search term is in the description or the name of the item, if it's a synonym, and then if it is related via the concept, the graph.
Awesome, thank you. I think we're ready for the end of the presentation slides. All right. Thanks everyone for attending our webinar, and thank you to our presenters today. The HEAL Stewards and HEAL Data Platform team have a variety of resources available. Please connect with us at any time to ask questions or set up a consultation. In addition to our presenters and panelists, we would like to acknowledge the behind-the-scenes team listed here who worked diligently to bring this webinar to production. And lastly, thank you to the audience for your participation. In addition to a recording of this webinar, we will also be sending out the presentation slides if you registered for this webinar. A link to our Slack channel and Connect with Us form will be sent out as well. We hope that you will reach out to the HEAL Stewards team for questions or support as you embark on your FAIR journey to maximize the value of HEAL data. We look forward to seeing you at our next webinar on Thursday, April 16 at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for a focused webinar on reusing data. Thanks again and have a wonderful day.